Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. So I'm back now. I've taken a bit of a break. Hopefully I'll be back now full time. I had to take a break, not because I needed a holiday. Well, I did, but that wasn't the main reason. Main reason was I've been warned not to carry on making YouTube videos, mainly through my job. My bosses told me, and also some authorities were knocking on my door as well, asking me to stop because I was spreading disinformation and propaganda and stuff like that. So I had to stop, not because I was scared or anything like that, but mainly because I was trying to protect my family. I didn't want them to get involved or get in trouble. So I had to stop for a bit. But the time has come now for me to start making videos again because the employer I was working for, the ones who made the threat, I'm no longer working for them. So I've left them now. So there's nothing really holding me back anymore. So I can start making videos again. And it's the right decision, guys, because I have really missed doing these videos. I've been watching everything going on in the world. I've had a lot to say, but I've been keeping quiet. I have been keeping my Twitter open as well. For those of you who follow me there, you can see my updates there. But I can start making videos again now. Anyway, on with the show. I've got two channels, as you know. I've got this China specific channel, and I've also got a wider geopolitics channel talking about the rest of the world. But this China specific channel, I'll only be talking about China and China alone. So without further ado, let's carry on with the show. So the US House has cleared a bipartisan package of bills to counter China. And looks like we're in a new Cold War by the looks of it, because even in the last Cold War with the Soviet Union, the Americans did exactly the same thing to the Soviets, basically. They sanctioned them, slowly to death, almost to destroy their whole industry, manufacturing. And eventually they collapsed because at the time, the American empire was too large. It had its claws in every part of the world, and its influence was way too large. Influence in media, soft power, diplomacy, you name it. They were powerful in everything. So they were going around country to country, basically saying, if you trade with us, you cannot trade with Soviet Union. So countries had to make a choice, and this was how the Soviet, kind of collapsed. It was basically one of the reasons. The main reason was oil prices. So America basically started the fracking industry a few decades ago, and basically, America is now the biggest producer of oil. Used to be Soviet Union before, but now it's America. And because of this fracking industry, it brought down oil prices to such a level that the Soviets could not run the economy anymore, because their economy was mainly based on oil and gas, and the whole system just collapsed. But also, one of the reasons Soviets were just focused on oil, because they couldn't really build any other industry or finance. They didn't have links to the rest of the world like America has, and claws to the rest of the world. And America made sure of that by placing all of these sanctions and bills against Soviets at the time. They did the same thing to Japan as well. Japan was a rising power. Everybody knows about the Plaza Accord, but before the Plaza Accord, the Americans were placing loads of sanctions and tariffs and bills to counter the Japanese rise. And look what's happened to Japan's economy. It's been stagnant for over 20, 30 years now. So they're doing the same thing now to China. And let's look at some of the list of what they're doing. And this is on top of all the other sanctions they've placed on China, by the way. They've placed so many sanctions on China. China is currently the third largest country um, that's got sanctions, basically. Number one is Russia, number two is Iran, and number three is China. China has got more sanctions than Venezuela and other countries, so China is definitely number third. So let's look at some of these bills that have been passed. Technology, they've basically put a bill on technology, on biotech. DJI drones are going to be banned. There's also other export restrictions as well. Let's look at this. You can see lots of drugs and other legislation, intellectual properties, restricting farm sales. They're going to stop Chinese buying farms in America. Um, Schools, to stop the spying. They're going to be stopping any Chinese influence in the school system. You can see US intellectual property and academic institutions and go after people engaged in theft and trade secrets, hacking and economic espionage. This sounds like more of like, jailing or taking Chinese people to courts. There's been a lot of Chinese in America who have been taken to court and put in jail because they've been accused of spying. Some of them, have been going through lengthy court battles. Some of them have had their lives ruined because of this. And a lot of the Chinese this has happened to had to return back to China because they've lost all trust in the American system. And this is gonna really hit America hard, really badly, because they don't seem to understand that working with China is a win-win scenario. And I think if you start you know kicking out Chinese scientists and teachers just because they look Chinese, you're scared they're gonna send they're gonna hack you, or they're gonna sell trade secrets. Then this sounds to me like some sort of ethnic cleansing where they just want to get rid of any Chinese in America, any successful Chinese, and send them back to China. This is good news for China, by the way. I mean, I'm sure China will be open-handedly support anybody that wants to come back to China with these skills that they've built up in America. But it's bad news for America because a lot of these companies, like, a lot of these tech companies, we're talking about Intel and NASA, and, all these global tech companies, Google, Microsoft, a majority of the high positions are Chinese. These are tech savvy guys who have been studying in America, made a name for themselves and now working in major companies in really high positions. And they are now being put in the radar. But a lot of these skillful workers are now moving back to China because they've had enough of this kind of racism. So this is not good, really. And you can see couple of Senate basically says she criticized the program for assuming that researchers and scholars in America should be investigated if they had a nexus with China, such as being born there or having relatives from there. I think it goes more than that. I think even if you look Chinese, they'll investigate you. So this is bad news. Looks like they are trying to get rid of every single Chinese in America. They're specifically targeting the Chinese here, and it looks like they want to replace all the Chinese in America with Indians by the sounds of it. They want to ban farmland and electric cars. So So China's been buying a lot of farmland in America over the years because China is a net importer of wheat and other farming products, and America has great farming, great technology, and wide open space, good weather, and the Chinese have been buying a lot of farmland and stuff, but they want to put a ban to that. So I kind of welcome it, to be honest. I mean, this is going to hurt the US farming industry, and I'll tell you why. Number one, China's going to diversify. They're not going to bother with buying US farm products anymore, and already every single year they are reducing their wheat from. I mean, this year alone they cancelled huge amounts of wheat shipments. Last year they did the same, and China will buy them from alternative sources. At the moment, they are buying 42% of the wheat from Brazil, 27% from Argentina. They're also buying wheat from, South Africa, and also from Russia. And they are just going to focus on BRICS countries going forward. I think China's going to just focus on the BRICS countries and buy their agricultural products from there. They're going to diversify away from America. And you can see the profits of US farmers are going to go down, because when you lose the Chinese market, there is no other market you can replace it with. I mean, who else are you going to replace that market with? I mean, name me another country like China, who's the biggest importer of wheat. There is no other country that can buy that much wheat in the short term. And so the farmers are going to lose big time by doing this, alienating the farmers. And already the farmers are complaining. They're saying, China's basically cancelling a lot of farm orders. But if you look at the big picture, Russia is right, next door to China. And Russia and China are focusing on building up the Far East, and especially Russia. They are building up their farmlands in Russia to provide China with everything that they need. And this is going to take another 5 years or 10 years, but eventually China will outproduce everything that America has produced, and China will be able to, Russia will be able to provide all of that agricultural goods into China. And it's going to be via rail. It's going to be quick, it's going to be cheap, and the best thing is they're not gonna, they can be traded with yuan, or the or the Russian ruble, and obviously they'll be staying away from American kind of influence and blockades and things like that. So the Chinese people don't have to feel afraid of being hungry during a war and stuff like that. So that's good news. And the second part of this is China is building up their own farming. Like, China, the basically, they have built this south to north water diversion canal. And what that does is redirects water from the south all the way to the north. And that means, there's millions and millions of acres of farmlands opening up in the north of China because of this canal. And already, China's reaping the benefits. Every single year, China's producing more and more farmlands, and they are producing their own wheat, their own wheat products and corn and things like that. And China's also reforesting a lot of the deserts as well. A lot of the deserts which have been useless. You cannot really grow anything, but they have been growing huge amounts of deserts into really good farmlands over the years. They've been doing it for last few decades. And this is really starting to bear fruit at the moment. Lots of deserts, like I think it's called the Mui Desert. It's called, and that's completely been greened out. And so many deserts have been turning into green grasslands and agricultural lands all over China. And also, they are building huge amounts of farmlands in the central part of China near Gansu. And basically, the because of the amount of water going to the north of China, they're focusing on building up the north of China. Building up their kind of agriculture in the north, because the south always had to water, so they never had to worry. They had to worry mainly about flooding in the south, but in the north it's completely dry. So in the Gansu area, they're building millions acres of grasslands and agricultural. Even they're doing it in Xinjiang as well, and they're building huge amounts of agriculture there. So China's agricultural production is increasing year by year, and this is going to keep growing. So imagine in the next 5 or 10 years, I believe China would be able to feed itself. They don't need to import from any country. Obviously, they will keep some imports coming in, but I think majority of it, China will be able to will be self-sufficient pretty much, and they'll be more of an export country rather than an import when it comes to agriculture. So that's good news for China, but it's really bad news for America. Looks like America's forcing China's hand, and China's going to have to kind of go along with doing this. The Americans are also going to be banning electric cars. At the moment, they put 100% tariffs on EVs, but I think they might outright ban them by the looks of it. But at the moment, 100% tariffs. And again, this is going to be bad news for America, because they are stopping Chinese technology from coming into America, and to compete. It should be like open market, right? I mean, if you have if you don't invite the Chinese market in, then how are you going to improve your own industry? Like, you need a bit of competition for you to improve, and for you to kind of have win-win situations. And it would have been a win for American people, because they would have been able to buy cheap EV cars, and that's great for the environment, great for the planet. So they don't even look at the big picture. One minute they are crying that China is the biggest polluter, but when China tries to do something good for the environment, they start banning it or put tariffs on it. It's just crazy. But yeah, this is gonna really affect America moving forward. They're also gonna ban the software that goes into EV cars in China. In China, the software is way ahead of Western software, like Volkswagen, Toyota, and all these other car companies buy Chinese software for their EV, for their EV cars, basically. And even Volkswagen outsource their software to Chinese EV companies. And doing that, you're basically you're still in the dark ages. You're not basically integrating other system. You're still using the same system. You're just not going to go anywhere. You're just going to stay stagnant, and it's just not good in an open market situation. So they're going to fall behind, like they're falling behind in 5G. Like, 5G is nowhere to be seen in America. In China, I'm hearing about download speeds of 1 terabytes a second, and America's download speeds are still like, same as it was with 4G or 3G. It's absolutely light and day. Even in UK, there's literally no 5G. It's all a charade. It's still 4G. People are paying for 5G in UK, but they're getting 4G speeds because they don't really have true 5G. So all of these things is just gonna hurt America in the long run, like everything it's done. And diplomacy, again, diplomacy you had before all of these things came on. I don't know if you guys remember, Blinken went to China to talk about this kind of stuff, and he did threaten China at the time. Those of you who follow geopolitics will remember Blinken traveling to China, followed by his mate. I think it's Jake Sullivan went as well a few weeks ago. But Blinken and Sullivan had the same message basically. They said, fall in line or face the consequences. They were basically making threats to China. And these are the threats basically. So you see all of this has been coincided with their trips to China. Their threats were basically asking China to, number one, stop supplying dual-use goods to Russia, stop buying Russian oil, stop supporting Russia. That's the number one thing. Number two, they want China to be more active in, not selling fentanyl precursors to America or South America. When I say precursors, this is not fentanyl itself. These are the products you need to make fentanyl. But the thing is, the products you need to make fentanyl is sold all over the world. These are products that you need. Fentanyl is a kind of pain-killing product used all over the world. But the rest of the world is not using fentanyl as a drug to kill themselves. It's only America that's doing it. So it's not China's fault. China's selling the same product everywhere around the world, but it's only this epidemic is only happening in America. So there's obviously other issues there. So Jake Sullivan and Blinken obviously went to China to tell them to stop working with Russia, to tell them to stop selling this precursor for fentanyl. They had other things as well. They wanted I think they had this big list of things as well. They also wanted more. They wanted them to stop interfering with Taiwan and the South China Sea. They wanted China to give them up basically. They also wanted China's help with the economy, to buy more bonds as well. They wanted China to keep buying American bonds, useless bonds that is going to collapse pretty soon. So they wanted all of these is the big list of things. They wanted China to stop overproducing stuff. So they're basically saying that China's taking away Western profits. So they wanted China to stop that term overproducing or oversupplying. And so they had this big list of things, and the Chinese obviously don't take well to threats, and they told Sullivan and Blinken to pretty much get lost. So this is the result. This is exactly what they threatened China with, and all of this stuff is now coming into fruition. So what other things did I speak about? So the technology I spoke about. They're going to ban DJI. They're going to put more semiconductor limits as well. They're going to ask ASML and Japan to stop selling stop selling units to China. They even want ASML to stop supporting these machines that's been sold to China. So they don't want ASML to do any kind of support on these machines whatsoever. So they want China to pretty much have these machines and not be able to do anything with it. And if they break, then they break basically. It's like having a car and you're not allowed to take it to the garage. One day it's gonna break, it's gonna have mechanical issues, but you cannot take it to the garage to fix it because you've been sanctioned. So it's like that. If the machine breaks, then it breaks, and they can't do anything about it. So obviously China's not happy, but I think China is fast tracking their own semiconductor industry already. Is blowing back in America's face. This is just gonna get China to put more money into their own industry and get this technology in production much faster. So again, this is gonna backfire on them. And America seems to be destroying its allies as well. The allies like Japan and Netherlands who make a lot of money selling these products to China, they're going to destroy their economies as well. Because if Japan and Netherlands stop selling these products to China, China's just going to make it itself, and this is just going to be bad for Japan because people will stop buying Japanese cars. It's already happening now. People, Japanese cars are, they're basically going bankrupt. Japanese car companies in China, and and China's just not going to be, friendly towards these countries when it comes to them selling their goods in China, making money out of China. So if they do that, then it's just going to destroy the economy even more, because if you cannot sell to China, you're losing a huge market there, especially Japan, right? I mean, Japan's neighbor is China. So it makes sense for Japan to trade with China and keep that as a number one trading partner. But unfortunately, Japan has been a puppet state of America for a long time. They reluctantly signed the Plaza Accord, destroying their own economy, and they will do it again. These Japanese puppets, they will pretty much do whatever the Western governments tell them to do. So what else is there? Yeah, it's pretty much it really. All of these, all this stuff that they're adding, farm sales, intellectual property, Chinese drones, biotechs, and America's also spending 1.6 billion to deliver anti-China's propaganda overseas as well. 1.6 billion is not a small amount of money. Imagine you, a country like America, your people are hungry, like you got homeless people everywhere, you have a drug epidemic, your economy's falling down, your dollar's about to fall and crash, you're having huge issues, and here you are basically messing about with the dragon, and you're wasting 1.6 billion of your own money when you could have used that money to help the homeless or something, but you're using it for propaganda basically. And this money will go to all these anti-Chinese hawks in YouTube and stuff like that to carry on making these anti-Chinese videos, and all the papers, newspapers, to pay off journalists and reporters to create anti-Chinese articles, and social media influencers are going to pay them as well. So that's where the money is going to be going end of the day. So if they want to do that, let them do that, because it's not helping end of the day. Because you just look at the world right now. China is in a very, very favorable position, because people are waking up. People know that people running the West are a bunch of genociders and liars and thieves and criminals, murderers, because you just have to look at what they're doing in Gaza, and how they're allowing this genocide to take place, but yet they talk about human rights and they try and demonize other countries and stuff like that. But look what people are seeing what they're doing to themselves to the Middle East. So people are not buying it anymore. Even their stories about Uyghur camps and stuff, nobody is listening to them anymore, because they know it's all BS. I mean, there are still a few idiots left here and there, but most of the people don't believe it, because people believe things they see with their own eyes. But when they see a live screen of live events of a genocide, real genocide going on in Gaza, then people wake up, people see what's real, what's not. Not one person can show you any genocide going on in Xinjiang. Not one piece of evidence, not one picture or video. All of these witness statements, they all basically saying anything just for a visa. All of these people that have left, they're all part of this East Turkestan separatists. Basically, they've all come to the West, dying for a visa, and they'll say anything. So nobody's buying it, guys. Nobody believes this Western propaganda anymore, and they've done it to themselves. they've destroyed their own reputation and destroyed everything they've built over the years. This whole Western house of cards is just falling down. Everything's falling down, and now with Israel, using Motorola devices, pagers, to do a terrorist attack, on Lebanon. People are not going to trust Western products anymore, and now, you know, companies like Apple and other, Motorola's and other, Western companies, nobody's going to trust them anymore, because who knows how many of these Western products have been compromised. Who knows if you're carrying around an iPhone which might have a bomb, one day they might decide to blow it up. Who knows? You just don't know. So people have lost trust with Western products, and immediately after that terrorist attack, there was a huge orders of Chinese-only products. People buying Huawei phones, and people from the Middle East, and people buying Chinese-only products because they don't trust the Western supply chain anymore. So I think all of this stuff is just not going to work. It's just going to boomerang to themselves again. Like it's boomeranged all of the other sanctions. I can give you many examples. The space program, they sanctioned China from the International Space, the ISS, International Space Station. They banned Chinese scientists from being there. And guess what? China's built its own space program, and now it's miles better than the West. They sanctioned China with all the semiconductors, and China used to buy 60 billion worth of goods from America every single year. Was it 60 billion or 600 billion? I can't remember the numbers, to be honest. It's been a long time. But they used to buy huge amounts of semiconductors from America. But now China's got its own semiconductor industry, even though it might not be high end like the 5 nanometers, but they are very close. They're making 7 nanometers chips, and what they are doing, they are putting them together to make it more powerful. And that's what Huawei is doing with its latest phone, and all the low-end chips, they are basically selling it abroad, exporting these low-end chips, and they are selling them for $60 billion per year. They're making now, China's making, and $60 billion they are selling to the rest of the world. That means the Western companies are losing $60 billion worth of business to the Chinese companies. So they've sanctioned China and not to kind of with the semiconductors, and now China's got its own semiconductor industry, even though it's not as high end yet, but it will be soon. So at the moment, China's already taken over the low end chip industry, but pretty soon, within the next 5 years or 10 years, they will take over the high end chip industry. They'll start making, chips beyond 5 nanometers, 3 nanometers, 2 nanometers. And there's already a lot of plans that's happening right now behind the scenes. There's a SME company which has made the DUV machine. China's got its own DUV machine. It's the world's only DUV machine which is made in house. People don't know that Netherlands, which is the world's leader in the DUV machines and the EUV machines, but the DUV machines, the ASML doesn't really make all of it in house. They have to source parts from different parts of the world, like Carl Zeiss makes the lens. America gives them the software, and also the kind of the laser technology comes from America. There's technology in there from Britain. There's technology in there from Taiwan, from the island of Taiwan, from South Korea, from Japan. So there's a lot of different components coming from different parts of the world going into these ASML machines. But China is the only country in the world which managed to make its own DUV machine, in 100% sourced locally, created in-house basically. and now they have signed a patent for EUV. So SMEE has now signed a patent for EUV machines. So within the next 2-3 years, I can see EUV machines coming into the market and taking over. And they might not be as powerful as the Western, EUV or DUV machines, but it's still a start. End of the day, you got to start from somewhere, and once you make a start, it's always easier to improve on it. Like you said, when you write a book, right? You might have lots of ideas in your head, and it might seem like really difficult to write a book. But once you write something, once you put something on paper, you write maybe 2 or 3 chapters, and it doesn't have to be the best book you've ever written in your life, but as long as something is there, you've wrote down all of your ideas, you wrote something, as long as something is there, you have something there that you can improve on. So once you have that, a few chapters, then have a good night's sleep. You wake up next day, you look through it, and you think, oh, I'm going to improve it here. I'm going to improve it there. And this grammar I don't agree with. Let me take this out and replace it with this. So over time, this book becomes better and better with each revision. Same way with technology. Once the technology first comes out, like the first iPhone, the next iPhone version will be better than the last, and the next iPhone will be better than the last, and that's how it works. You make revisions and improvements to it, and eventually and that's how technology works. You catch up, and they will catch up sooner or later, to be honest. I made these semiconductor videos way back when I first started my channel, and I had a lot of people in my comment section laughing at me back then, saying, oh, China will never be able to produce DUV machines or produce its own chips. China doesn't have the supply chains. China doesn't have the know-how. These guys, they don't know how to innovate. They're going to go nowhere. And these same guys are quiet now. When China's releasing all these stuff, these DUV machines, they're making their own chips, they're making 7 nanometers. Huawei phones have got 7 nanometers chips they're making with SMIC. And they are pretty much quiet now. All of these people that were saying China will never do it, and they've done it. They're not there yet, they're still getting there. China's also having, hundreds of thousands of, STEM graduates coming out every single year, and I'm sure a lot of these engineers will go into the semiconductor sector and come out with new ideas and things like that. So yeah, things are looking good for China. Anyway, this video's becoming far too long now, so thanks everyone for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care for now.